Hello, everyone. We're live again on a Monday night. Thanks for checking it out, whether you're here live or watching the replay. My name's Jason, and tonight I've got a really special guest. Tony's joining me. Tony did one of my one of the first videos I did on YouTube was when I first started YouTube. I was doing long form conversation videos, and so he was one of my first guests in that format. So I've asked him back here to catch up and tell you all his story and see what's changed over the last few months. And hopefully, if any of you have any questions for Tony or myself, just pop it down in the chat, and we'll just have a good time, I guess. So let's bring Tony in here.
Hey, Jason.
Tony, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Good. It's good to see you again. It's been a little while since we did that last video.
Yeah, it has been, and been looking forward to this when you reached out. Around the days. So
yeah. No, it's I guess I was looking back, and it was early last year that we first. I first found out about your story when you were on Gormy's podcast.
That's right. That's how we met.
Yep. And then I reached out to you on Instagram there, and we've been talking back and forth on there ever since, kind of thing. It's because I know you've got a good story to tell, and I've been trying to tell as many stories on here as possible to try and reach some people. We've got some people in the chat already here. We've got Robert. I was on his live stream last week, telling my story. It was that was nice. A lot of fun. We've got Consistent Ash. Ash is she's another YouTuber / keto influencer. She's on Instagram as well. She's got a lot of great content on her YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, I follow her and watch a lot of her things, YouTube stuff. So I'm trying to figure out if I can comment on here. I don't know if I can, or if that's just on you.
Yeah, you might be able to comment through the like the actual, if you had the actual live broadcast open on YouTube, you could comment through there. You would just you'd have to mute it, or it would give you some echo.
So, yeah, for sure.
We've got Amber Milton here. Amber.
Yeah. Amber's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen her in here before, so it's welcome to the live stream. We've got Lazy Killer. He's been around for quite a while. It's good to see you. And that's funny. Ash, are you a good influencer? I don't know. Sometimes she's a good influencer. Sometimes she's bad. And then we got Brett here from Fight the Fear Show. It's another sort of podcast YouTube channel that it's part of the community here. So it's good to see everyone here so far. It looked like the post we put on Instagram today was pretty well received. Hopefully some people come check it out and hear your story. And like I say, even back when we first talked months ago, it was sort of my goal to try and bring as much information to YouTube as I could. And I know back then I didn't really have much of a following here on YouTube, but it's gotten better, and I think I've sort of brought some awareness of the keto lifestyle to some of the people that are in this community that aren't necessarily keto, but they're definitely interested. So that's why I thought of you right away, because you had such a great story to share with people. And I think that's what it's all about. It's the real life experiences with people that make a difference.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think first of all, I think you do you do a great job with the resourcing and just telling people stories, and I think you're right. I think when we can hear other people's stories, because sometimes when you're doing this, you feel like you can be alone. You're on an island all by yourself sometimes, but then you start hearing other people's stories, and you're hearing some of the same, conversations, the same stuff that they might be, struggling through, or the successes that they're having. And it kind of brings us all together a little bit more. And I think that's what's excellent about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like even last week when I was on Robert's podcast, he has like a video podcast kind of show. So it was the same thing there. I don't think anyone except for maybe Ash there was that informed about keto. So we just sat down for an hour and went over my story. And I think by the end of the hour, it was, some eyes were opened to some of the nuance of it. So it's good. And I think, and that's why I wanted to start doing more of like these live interviews kind of thing, to try and bring more perspective into it. Because while we see a lot of the same successes throughout the community, it's a lot of people go about it different ways. A lot of people have different reasons for starting. A lot of people have different, processes they went through to get started, and they are at different parts of their journey. So there's a lot of different perspective that can be given here. So,
absolutely.
So I guess we got a few people in here, so we might as well jump into it. I guess Tony, if you want to, sort of let everyone know sort of what led you to starting keto, and basically what your story is as far as, like I say, what led you to it, how you started it, where you are at your journey, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And again, Jason, thanks for having me on. It's a privilege and an honor to be here with you. This is great. Well, you know what? For most of my adult life, I kind of struggled with my weight. And, it was just literally years and years of just yo-yo dieting. I did it all. I did the Weight Watchers, and even back in, I think it was 2005, I did a little bit of Atkins diet and just different things. But it seemed like for every success that I would have, I would always take, 10 steps backwards, and I would gain the weight back. And I always just kind of looked at it as like, this is just going to be the way that my life is. I'm always just going to be this chubby, fat guy, and, but the older I got, my health started to decline a little bit, and I was having just all kinds of issues, high blood pressure, and I couldn't sleep. I literally would wake up gasping for air in the middle of the night, and I remember it was August of 2018, and my family had all flown to California for a trip, and I had to stay back for work. I work with students, and I work with children and families, and we were having a camp that week, and I just remember how exhausted and tired and just I was so spent. And at the last day of the camp, it was a Friday afternoon, I came home, and I couldn't even think straight. And I don't know what possessed me to step on the scale that day, but I stepped on the scale, and I couldn't believe the number that I saw, and I was approaching 400 pounds. And I remember I just broke down in that bathroom. Nobody was here. I was all alone. And I just broke down, and I thought to myself, I am literally killing myself. I can't continue down this path. I can barely do my job, and let alone be present with family and friends and all the things that I have. I'm a dreamer kind of guy, right? And I got these big dreams, and I kept thinking, if I don't stop this madness, none of those are ever going to be realized. And something broke that day, and I don't know if you want to call it rock bottom or whatever, but there was something that changed that day, and there was an urgency inside of me. And I knew that if I didn't make a change at that point in my life, that I don't know if my life would have continued, very, very much longer, because the health issues and everything I was having was definitely pointing to me not living a long life, Mm-hmm. And I started doing research, and I came across, this term keto. I had heard a little bit about it, and I kind of just started reaching out to people on Instagram. I didn't know didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know like what I was supposed to eat, you know, all this kind of stuff. But I took a first step, and I started, and I didn't know anything about it, but I started, like I said, I was reaching out to pretty much everybody that would take a direct message from me, you know. And here's the cool part about this community. There were so many great people that are still a part of my life to this day. And anytime I have a question for them, or anytime I reach out, they've always taken the time and have answered the questions. And there's just so many people, awesome people, that literally were rooting for me even from day one, you know. And that's the beauty about it, you know. It's like we're all in this together. We're all at different points of this journey, but man, we're like, I see people that are just starting out, and I'm cheering for them. And I've seen people that have lost the weight, that have been on keto for 5-6 years, and I'm still rooting for them because they're killing it, you know. So that's kind of where it's been. So it was about 3.5 years ago when I started. I've lost 125 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and still have a ways to go. You know, I look down and I still got a little belly and some love handles that need to be less. But man, I'm in just such a different place where I was on that bathroom floor in the summer of 2018. Just a whole new view on life, a hope that I don't think I ever had. And it's, you know, it's inspiring me to continue on this journey, but also to just help people. And even coming on your show tonight, you know, like, let's get the word out. Let's be rooting for people, because I really think that there's people that need that. There are people literally today that are when I was that first person saying, man, what's keto? What's fasting? What's macros? Like, what do you mean I can eat, you know, some fat, you know, all that stuff. And that's where I was. And I've just loved what it's done for my life. It literally gave me my life back.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from, and again, I you know, the two of us, we found that in keto specifically, but I think the main thing to understand is that really whatever change you make, that's what's the biggest part. And you're right. I think you have to get to that point where something inside just clicks, and you have to come to that realization that if you don't make the change, bad things are going to happen. You know, I was the same way too. Like I didn't get to the point you did exactly, but I had a hard time bending over to tie my shoes. And, you know, I tried to play hockey a couple of times, and I could barely even bend over to tie up my skates. Like it just, it got hard to do everyday things.
Yes.
And that's when it sort of turns into well, you know, you can go on the rest of your life feeling like crap, you know, not being able to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Or you can just make a decision to make those changes and go with it. Yeah. I'm just curious, when you first started and you said you were doing research, who did you sort of look to for your guidance when you were first starting out?
Are you talking about people that I reached out to?
Or, well, was there any of the, I know myself, I sort of gravitated to the Thomas DeLauers and I watched some of the Dr. Berg stuff until I stopped watching him altogether. But, and then because I did that quite a bit of that before I even got onto Instagram and started knowing anybody else doing keto. It wasn't until I was on Instagram that I met anybody like yourself and, you know, Gormy and all those guys. So it was all sort of YouTube searching keto and coming up with the Goody Beats and Thomas and everyone else that was already big enough in the space to have some influence on how to do things.
Yeah. I mean, I literally got on the computer and I just started doing research. I started reading everything that I could. I just put in the word keto diet, keto, lifestyle. And I was just a sponge. And the cool part was it was resonating with me. It was making so much sense. And the Dr. Berg stuff, like, that was good. But the cool part, and I think that's what did lead me more to Instagram, was because when you started putting in some of these taglines, even in Google, there was accounts that were coming up, Gourmet being one of them, several others, Sam, Keto Sam, and I started reaching out to some of these peeps, and man, they stopped what they were doing, and they answered my questions. I never felt put out by them. I never felt like what I was asking them was too much. They actually took the time, and I think that's what really spoke to me, because here were complete strangers that knew nothing about me, knew nothing about my past or who I was or anything like that, and they were stopping to answer probably the silliest of questions that I probably could have figured out on my own. But in the very beginning, you feel, overwhelmed. And it wasn't just an overwhelming feeling for me. It was literally like, I know this sounds dramatic, and I'm a very dramatic person, but it felt like my life depended on it,
Yeah.
and I was trying to get all the answers that I possibly could, because I knew that change needed to be made. And I do love what you said about any kind of change. It doesn't matter. You have to find something that's going to work for you and that's going to be sustainable for you. But just making the change, taking the step forward, and caring enough about yourself and about your life and about your dreams that you're going to actually start caring to make a difference. And I know that that's loaded right there. Like, we could just probably have a whole episode about what locks us up on the inside. But it's all about that first step, half step, whatever it looks like, So.
Yeah. It's I completely agree. I know last week when I was talking on Robert's show, the one thing that came up is that I think at the end, like when it really comes down to it, anybody can go on a diet, anybody can do any diet, but until it's up here, until you have that drive and that mentality that says, I'm not going to fail, I'm going to do this for me, like forget everything else, I have to do this for me. And then, like I say, my biggest thing is finding out why you want to do it, and then just focusing on when you have those days when you want to give it all up because it sucks. And I'm not going to say that keto doesn't suck sometimes. It does suck sometimes when you're out with friends and everyone's having a good time eating at the buffet of garbage food and all that. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not tempted, but then all I have to do is think about, okay, why did I start to do this? And then it puts it back in perspective for me. But and that's just the way I've sort of gone about it. But I know it's physical change doesn't start on your plate, really. It starts in your head. You have to get that worked out first, because it's just like everyone that tries to quit smoking.
Sure.
A lot of times people try to quit smoking because it's the thing they should do, but it's not the thing they want to do. It's not till you want to do something that you're actually going to be able to do it. I had the same thing. I smoked cigarettes for years when I was younger.
Sure.
And it took me a while to quit, but then one day I said, okay, that's it. I'm done with this. And that was it. So, but I found the same thing with dieting or changing lifestyle, at least. And that's, I catch myself saying diet all the time too. Yeah. Really, it's just changing a lifestyle, right?
I think, yeah, absolutely, man. And I think anybody can have a behavior modification, for a short period of time. Anybody can do a diet or a little bit of a change for 2-3 weeks, maybe even a couple months. But I do agree, if it hasn't sunk in here, and I also think that these two need to be talking to each other for it to really make the change. Because all of us in any part of our life, whether it's diets, relationships, all that, we can have all the behavior modifications, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually real change and real transformation. It's I think it's when those things start connecting, those dots connect, is when the real change starts to happen, and something turns the corner, something clicks, and I think that's where things start to happen, and that's where real change. It's not just a behavior modification anymore. It actually is moving you towards something that's a true change.
Sure. Yeah. No, it completely makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess we got Kim Rohrbeck in here tonight.
Kim's awesome. Hey, Kim.
Yeah, I haven't seen Kim here. So thanks for checking this out tonight.
Yeah.
Looks like Ash had to go put her little one down, so
yeah,
hopefully she comes back. But yeah, no, it's I think, I don't know, it's more and more like the longer I stick with this lifestyle. Like I think I started a few months after you did, maybe 4 or 5 months after you did, and I think it's, I don't know, it changes so much after you've sort of gotten into the hang of it. And I think what the biggest turning point for a lot of people is being able to stick with it for that 90 days, 120 days kind of thing, until it turns into basically habit. Like it's trying to do things like keto for 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, you'll see some results, some water weight and all that, but you'll never really get the true benefits out of it. And I think that's where a lot of the mentality and the desire to do it come in. If you can see it out for the 3 or 4 months to get that into a habit, then it can turn into a lifestyle pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, no, it's great following you on Instagram there, because I keep seeing all your, you have a lot of inspirational posts, and I see you're at the gym all the time, and it's must be nice. Like, did you have to stay away from the gym there for a couple of years, or like a year and a half, or were you able to?
Yeah, the gym had completely closed for a pretty good period of time, and then they reopened it, and I think in the very beginning they were mandating the mask and all that, but I would say over the last couple months they've lightened up a little bit, and it's been nice. It's been nice just to get back, during COVID and everything. I have a really nice park that's just up the street here, and so that kind of became my gym. I was doing the walks and doing the hiking and exercises in the grass and whatever I could come up with. I mean, that really was. I think all of us were trying to get creative with all that. If you didn't have access to a real gym, yeah. And as far as the inspirational stuff, like that's the cool part. That's really an extension to what my life has always been about. I've always been an inspirational person. I care deeply for people, and I really want to see people succeed in all areas of their life. But I also know that health and fitness and stuff is a big part of that. So, yeah, trying to make the world a better place, man.
Yeah, and at least that's the one sort of. It's a nice thing about the keto community on Instagram is, it's got. I can't say that it's all good, but for the most part, the whole community seems to be fairly, pretty well, supportive of everybody. Like not even, like you say, not even just the big players like Gormy and, like any of the bigger influencers there. But everybody out there, like you say, if you were to reach out to someone with questions and, or even just comments, or like I've never really had any kind of negative interaction with anybody on Instagram,
right?
So even like I say, people like Gormy, I don't know him personally. I've never actually talked to him. I've listened to his podcasts all the time, but he's always one, to support everybody. Like he was sharing your story today about tonight, and like he's the same way. I think like he's basically just, like I know from hearing his story enough that he just wants everybody to know, what's possible if you can change your lifestyle in the right direction, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's been fun about all this too is that, in the very beginning, I was that guy reaching out and asking the questions. Well, you do this long enough, and I'm sure you get it too sometimes, Jason, but now there's people that are on their journey. They've just started, or maybe they're a year in and they've kind of hit some roadblocks. I start getting the direct messages from people asking me questions, and it's been fun to be able to share some of the stuff that I've done or what I haven't done. And then every once in a while you actually get stumped with a question, and it's like, well, you know what? I don't know the answer to that question, but let's figure this out together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the fun part. Instead of just saying, I don't know, it's like, hey, let's figure this out. And because that's a great question. And I think that that's always a good response. Just come alongside of people and trying to partner with people in all of this. I don't know. I just think the world and definitely this community needs more of that for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's yeah, because even though most of the IG community is, and even the YouTube community is sort of doing things for the right reasons, there's still a certain percentage of people just out there trying to make a buck,
Yeah.
using the word keto as a, as a catchphrase, and they really have no interest in whether you succeed or not. All they want to do is sell you something. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's just the nature of social media these days. I guess you just have to, there's certain things I look out for on people's pages.
Yeah.
If I see it, then I don't follow them. I
Yeah.
don't really have time for that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, no, I hear you. You got to be cautious, out there, because you're right, and you'll know, as the more you talk to people, you could sniff people out pretty quick, like, okay, is this person really going to be around to support me? Or are they just going to, they follow, unfollow,
sure. Yeah.
all that kind of nonsense. I actually had to just kind of stop with all that eventually, because I just thought, you could spin your wheels, way too much, and you get focused on the wrong things, and it just isn't healthy. And
yeah,
so,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I've done the same thing with Instagram as well. Like I've sort of had to shift my time. Not that I spent a lot of time on Instagram, but I have shifted my time to here. So I use Instagram. I still post sometimes on there.
Yeah.
Honestly, my follower count has done nothing but go down in the last 6 months.
Okay. Yeah.
Like you get people follow you every day, but then they
Right.
just, if you don't follow them back right away, they're just gonna unfollow you anyway. So
Yeah.
it's I've kind of lost interest in really micromanaging that for sure.
Yeah.
That's why, and that's one of the reasons I'm spending more time on YouTube, is because of people like Ash and Robert and
Yeah.
all the community that we have going here. There's 15, 20, 25 creators that sort of all have the same goal to, like, we're not all putting out the same message, but we have the same goal of, trying to get our message heard in any way we can, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. And that's all you can do, man. You're going to hit a different, a different type of people in all the different platforms and stuff. And just utilize what works. And I think you do a great job on this, on YouTube, and all the stuff that you share, I think is really, really solid.
Yeah. Well, I'm still trying to sort of find my flow on YouTube. Again, things have changed numerous times over the last, 8-9 months. Like I'm doing review videos now mostly, and I'm finding those are sort of along what I'm comfortable with. And, I spent a lot of time in the last few months just doing short videos, like under a minute,
Right.
kind of like reels for YouTube. Basically just showing food videos, which again, they're good for views, but they don't really do an awful lot for your channel.
Yeah, that's true. I do know this, the ones that I've watched, it always makes me go, I think that's what I'm having this weekend for.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal, right? So, so speaking of food, what's your sort of go-to, meal planning look like these days, now that you're, 3.5 years into this?
Yeah. Well, I fast, 16/8, and so I don't do breakfast in the morning outside of coffee, and watch out for the keto police. I actually put heavy cream in my coffee in the morning, which they would say I'm not technically fasting, but whatever.
Whatever.
It's worked for me. And then I usually have lunch around 12:30, and then I usually have dinner around 5:36, just depending on how the day is going. go-tos for me, man, I've been honestly lately, I've just been getting back to some real basics. I was getting kind of elaborate with making stuff and just trying different things out, and I have found that getting back to, literally like ground beef, eggs, some dairies, have just really, like, my body's been craving it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, even for example, like yesterday, I was craving egg salad, and so made some egg salad, and I found these egg wraps at Sprouts, which is a market here, and so it kind of acts like a bread, and so I had these egg salad wraps yesterday for lunch, and man, they were just so good, and there was no real thought process behind it. It was just real simple, and of course I'm drinking a ton of water.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes life interesting. I'm constantly looking for a restroom. But yeah, and then just the exercising. I'm trying to get at least an hour to an hour and a half of some kind of activity in every single day. Sometimes, like today, it was a little bit shorter just because my schedule didn't allow it, but I still got it in. But I got half of that in today. So I'm trying to do that almost every single day, and then I'll try to have a day or two sometimes just to have a rest day, and
Mm-hmm.
that's been really good for me. But yeah, I've kind of stripped back and just kind of getting back to like where when I first started with keto, like the stuff that I was doing, and kind of getting back to those real kind of more easy meals. Of course, a go-to for me when I can afford it is steak. I'll have a steak and some Brussels sprouts. And for me, it just doesn't get any better than that. Like, I feel like I'm eating like a king, if I make a steak and have Brussels sprouts on the side. How about you? What are you eating these days?
Yeah, and you know what? You talk about getting back to basics, and I think half the reason I don't post on Instagram as much anymore is because I basically eat the same thing
Yeah,
all the time.
right.
It's not the same thing all the time, but I can only post pictures of cheeseburgers and steaks so often, right? So, and that's basically, like, you're right. I cook up a big mess of ground beef every week for meal prep, and like if I'm busy and like a night like tonight, I don't have a lot of time, I'll just throw some of that in a pan and throw in some eggs and scramble it all up. And,
Yep.
that's a good meal. And that's like, and I think you're right. Unfortunately, I've sort of strayed away from the basics as well in the last probably year.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, I'm still maintaining everything that I want to. It's just, especially with doing the review videos on YouTube and all that. So there's a lot more,
Yeah.
let's say, treat stuff in the house than I would usually have.
Cool.
So it's just a matter of trying to limit that and, just use it as like a once or twice a week kind of thing. But yeah, I agree. The more you stick to the basics of your, your proteins and some vegetables, then I think the easier it is to not crave all the other things that can derail your progress for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the best advices, I think it was a couple of the guys in the very beginning had said, hey, like, get your protein in, count your carbs, and then use the fat as your leverage,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's really just been kind of my go-to for the last 3.5 years, and it's helped me so much in just anything. So I get the good healthy fat, I put it in, whatever it is that I'm making, whether I'm cooking, a steak, I'll, throw in some duck fat or something like that to cook up the steak, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just so sustaining. And I think that's the part. I'm not constantly thinking like, oh, what am I going to eat next? Because I get so full from the meal that I just had that, I'm not always just like, I don't know who it is. It might be Gourmet. I'm not sure. One of them says, my secret is that I'm always hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would probably say that's true. But I know one thing that has changed for me is it's not constantly on my mind as much as it used to be. I was,
Mm-hmm.
when I was a big dude, I was always thinking about what I was going to eat next, what my snacks were going to be, that kind of stuff. And I don't do it as much as I used to. And I think that's good. I think that points to the change we were talking about, So,
Yep, absolutely. Like the more you can sort of strip back what um, your intake is, and I think that's where things have sort of changed in the last couple of years too. Because you look back 3 4 years ago when we first started, protein was evil, and you can't eat too much protein. You got to eat lots of fat.
yeah.
And then, it's almost shifted entirely the other way.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in some ways where people, for some reason, are saying that, no, you can't eat fat if you're trying to lose fat. Well,
Yeah.
that might be true if you want to be hungry all the time, so you're right. You have to, and that whole focusing on protein, minimizing carbs, and using fat as the leverage is definitely, I think, the healthiest attitude towards it. Now, there are still people that can't handle a lot of protein.
Yeah.
But there's even the sort of the consensus I see nowadays is that, even the fasting we've gotten, I know 16/8's not too bad. That's what I do most days as well.
Yeah.
But I think fasting has kind of turned into a some more is better kind of thing when it's not always the case. Like,
Right.
people are constantly fasting all the time.
Yeah.
Fasting's fine. Maybe doing a 48-hour fast once, or every 3 months or something,
Sure.
and then skipping breakfast or something. But
Yeah.
doing it more isn't going to gain more for you, I don't think. I think ultimately it turns into I don't like to say this, but unfortunately it turns into another form of eating disorder
Yeah.
in some people, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. I think if you focus on making sure, to get enough, eat when you're hungry and eat until you're full.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
that's basically it. And if you eat enough good quality protein, usually you're going to wind up getting the fat that you require anyways.
Yeah.
Like I know with the price of meat these days, like, I don't know what it's like where you are, but I buy a couple of ribeyes every week, and we usually have them on a Sunday night. If I could do that every night, sure. Like, I don't know how people like Sean Baker eat ribeyes every day and stuff like that, but I guess he's a doctor, and he's making lots of money. But
Yeah.
like, if I could eat ribeyes every day too, I would. But
Sure.
it's us folk have to stick with the ribeyes once in a while and the ground beef the rest of the time, I guess.
Yeah. I think I think you hit on something just a second ago too, just about that, I think anything that we do can become unbalanced, and, and even like, the fasting or whatever it is, gosh, you could probably even throw in, it seems like there's even some folks on here that are constantly in the gym, like, and that is life, and that's fine. Like, that's your life. But I think sometimes what happens is when it goes, and maybe it goes back to that behavior modification I was talking about, but their old obsession now turns into something that's new. And I think what happens for a lot of people is, like, they've changed their life a little bit, but there's still a lot of stuff on the inside that hasn't changed in them. And so it just turns into something new. It just morphs, whether it's obsession, OCD, whatever the case may be. Now they're pouring their energy into fasting and different things like that. But I think the whole idea is that we need to be changing on the inside and on the outside, So hopefully people hear that and go like, yeah, you know what, maybe this has been a little unbalanced for me. And I would even say in my own journey, in the 3.5 years, there's been moments in this where I've had to step back and kind of reevaluate things.
Right.
Okay, am I doing this? Is this right? Is this ultimately the healthiest thing? Is this going to be sustainable for me over the course of the rest of my life? And I've had to ask myself some hard questions too. And I think we have to constantly be in a place where we're learning and we're growing, we're asking the questions, we're listening to our bodies, and making sure that we're not replacing one addiction with a different type of addiction, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I completely agree. Like, I think, like you say, you can, um, was it the one thing the favorites, the meme I'm seeing out there is that there is no goal in a healthy lifestyle.
Mm,
Like, there's no finish line.
yeah.
It's basically a continuous sort of evolution. What you do when you're 200 pounds overweight
Yeah.
and what you do when you're 20 or 30 pounds overweight, it had, like, it's not the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
the same as I do, when you first make a drastic change like keto,
Yeah.
if you have quite a bit of weight to lose, you know, and I'll apologize to any of the females here that have probably tried and tried and tried and tried to lose weight and it just doesn't come off. Unfortunately, the fact is, with men, you just change your diet one way and then the weight just falls off,
Yeah.
and that's the way it is with keto. But I can't do the same thing um, that I did 3 years ago now. Like, it's just not, you have to be continually updating how you use the tools that you have
Yeah.
to continue on with that progression in your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So yeah, because like when I first started out, I wasn't eating as much meat as I am now, or protein, and I was eating quite a bit of vegetables. But now it's sort of shifted the other way, because that's the way I feel best, and that's sort of what keeps me, in the place that I like to be, I guess. So,
Yeah.
Half the time I'm not, like, I think the last time I tested ketones was like 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't even test any of that. I don't know if you still test or do any of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not really my necessary goal to be in ketosis all the time. It's just to be,
Yeah.
in a healthy state all the time. And,
Yeah.
it's because there are going to be times nowadays, especially when I do reviews of cookies and ice cream and all that, that it's because what I try to do is I try and do 4 or 5 videos in one sitting. So
Sure.
you're trying all this different stuff, but if you only do it once or twice a week, it's not so bad, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think sometimes people also, if they're testing regularly, and let's say that they're testing low in their ketones, or let's say they're not in ketosis at all, they see that as a somehow a failure, and it's like, no, you're missing the point of what you're trying to do for your life and for your body, because if it just becomes just that part, then I think we've missed the whole boat. It can't just be about that. It has to be much bigger than that.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We got Brett here saying, I had success with daily fasting, got up to 18.6. As soon as I fell off, I lost all progress.
Mm,
Yeah. Even 18.6, I did one meal a day for like almost a whole year.
yeah.
And to be honest with you, it did more harm than good. It
Mm,
just not, I felt like garbage at the end of that year, basically.
yeah.
I maintained a pretty low weight and all that doing it, but trying to feed yourself so much in that small of an eating window is just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I think even 18.6, like you say, I'm pretty much 16.8 as well. I usually don't eat until noon, and then I make sure I don't eat anything after like 8:30 at night, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So even 18.6 is kind of that's still a pretty small window for,
Yeah.
especially for a male, like, especially if you're trying to shoot for, and we should be shooting for, most males are going to be looking at, 2,200 calories a day.
Yeah.
It's a lot of calories to get in 6 hours.
Yeah, it
And your
is.
body, yeah. And yeah, your body can get used to that. And again, going back to that evolution of the journey that Amber
Yeah.
mentioned here, that's the other thing too, is that, we all know, and I guess, well, we don't all know, but the fact is that your body gets used to what you're doing after a while, and sometimes you have to shake things up just to get things to keep moving. Right. So.
Absolutely. And I've done that. I've done that often where, you stall, maybe you're not seeing the weight, or maybe you're just feeling differently. Maybe even the clothes are fitting a little tighter or different, or so I'll mix it up. And so that 16-8 now becomes, I'll increase the eating window and kind of spread it out a little bit. I'll change the food up a little bit. I'll even sometimes go a few days, like just, I don't do carnivore on purpose, but I'll just have a couple days where I'm mostly eating a lot of proteins and fats. And that always seems to kind of break things up for me a little bit. And then the reverse side of that, there's days where I'll literally wake up and I'm craving a salad, like I just want to have a little giant salad. And so then I'll go do that. And it's constantly keeping my body guessing, because our body they get into a routine. They're good at guessing things. And so I just try to mix it up a little bit. And even with me kind of going back to some of the basics, my body's like, oh, I remember all this food. I like it, and that's been really good for me. And I do agree with Amber as well. I think Amber makes a good point. There is no end game. For the rest of my life, I want to be in a place where I'm progressing, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm transforming, but not just my physical, but like my mental, my spiritual, like all of that needs to be taking place for me. So.
Yeah. And I think this goes back to, this was earlier in the conversation here. You said something about, I think your physical health is a real anchor to that mental health and that spiritual health, and just being a happy person. Like if you're not healthy, you're constantly dealing with health issues. Like I always had a bad back and bad knees, and my feet were always sore, and because I work on my feet quite a bit, I was just miserable. Like you can't have a happy life. You can't be mentally happy. You can't live your best life if physically you're a wreck. So I think fixing that part of it, while it is sort of shifting your mental outlook on life at the same time, I think actually fixing the physical part of it can definitely kickstart the rest of the healing that most of us need, unfortunately.
No, it's true, man. I think Fight the Fear here says, mind, body, spirit, hard to strike a balance sometimes. It is. Sometimes you swing too far on one side, and then you neglect some of the other things. And I think that's why it's a constant motion. We're constantly trying to adapt to different things, and hopefully at some point in our lives we'll get some of that balanced out a little bit. But I just know, like for me, man, you were talking about how much, like when you're that unhealthy, how much it affects your mental, and then that just affects every aspect of your life, And so for me, that was so much the case. I wasn't sleeping. I went in for a sleep study, and I remember the doctor came in, and it was ridiculous, right? It was insane. I literally broke down in the doctor's office because it was so bad.
Right.
He was saying I was having, I think he said something like 62 episodes an hour.
Wow.
Which pretty much was more than every minute, and you would have thought at that point that would have been enough for me to change, and yet that wasn't. It still wasn't enough for me to make those changes. And so, you have to figure out, that balance, so that the mind, body, spirit, all that stuff needs to kind of they all need to be connecting on some level. And so that, but it does come down, like you said, the mental part of it. You can start wrapping your mind around that, things start to change. And when you do start dropping weight, you start feeling better about yourself. And once that starts to happen and you turn the corner, I mean, there's no stopping people, so.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's, and I don't know. It seems like Well, at least for the like the Instagram community and that, it seems like that's like a common theme amongst a lot of people on Instagram, is that as soon as they get that release of the whole physical issues that they've been dealing with for some people like most of their life, it turns into a completely different focus. And now, your focus and my focus and a lot of other people we know, Gormy and, everybody on there, that's their focus now is to share as much as they can, because from personal experience that if you can instill in someone else what you've learned from this journey, that hopefully they can take that and start their own and, and get to the same point you are with it. Because like I don't know how you feel, but in the last 3 years, physically and emotionally and mentally and everything else, I feel better now than I ever did. I wasn't always that way, but like I feel better now than I did when I was 30, So it's, yeah, it can be such an impact on your life, just getting that health part into check.
Yeah. Which is crazy when you think about it. You're saying, hey, I feel better now than when I was 30. I relate to that so much because I was in my 30s and 40s. I was a train wreck, and here I am. I'm turning 52 in January. And I feel like $1 million, man.
Yeah.
Like I really do. There's parts of my body that are paying the price from all those years, like my poor knees. I've been doing a lot more weightlifting and doing different things lately, and man, it's taken a toll. But I'm pushing through it. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out how to make my knees stronger so that I can, sustain the work that I'm, putting in. But man, I feel I just have a renewal in life, and that hope that I really kind of gave up on has returned in large dividends, and on some days that's all we have, right? We just have that little bit of hope and stuff, but the hope is that we are going to be better. We're going to see a longer life, a healthier life, and actually go chase the things that we get excited about, the things that bring us the most passion in life, right? Like that's what I want. I have so many dreams, so many goals that I want to do. And I really feel like I've been given a second chance to be able to do that. And that's because I made that first step, and it's messy. I mean, Jason, you could probably speak into this too, right? Like, it's not this like perfect, like timeline, like, hey, that's awesome, Tony. You got really down on yourself and you made a change, and now look at you. It has been nothing short but messy and hard. And there's been days where it was dark, and it was, like you said, with other people, you get around other people, they're eating food, you get tempted. It's all of that, but the hope is that you can kind of just continue through that, and it becomes consistent. It's not just a diet. It becomes a lifestyle change, a heart change, a mind change. And that's, I think, where the real change and the lifestyle happens,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we've been going almost an hour here. This has been, has been great. It's, I know you, and I'll put this down in the description of the video as well. You've got a website as well, do you?
I do.
Remember, is that
Colliding Moments, and Colliding Moments really was just an extension of many years ago. I had so many different projects that I was kind of working on, and my wife had said to me, hey, either figure out how to do one of these things really well, or figure out how to combine all of them. And so I was able to combine all of them. And the whole idea behind Colliding was really kind of what we're talking about. We all have moments in our life that define us, that separate us, that point us to either the good parts of life or the hard parts of life. And so it was really just an exploration of trying to come alongside people, partner with people, and to try to instill hope, inspiration, and just letting them know, hey, you're not alone out there. Like, we're all dealing with different things. So let's create a community. Now, over time, it's morphed a little bit, and now it's going to start taking on more of the transformational side of things, because I always hope that that's what it's going to be. It's going to, as I grow as a person, I hope that that grows as well. And so that's kind of what it is. And it's just a place for me to, have an outlet for my artsy fartsy side. So
yeah. No, I've checked that out. It's worth a look. And like I say, I'll put a link to it down in the description. And your IG is Keto Collide.
Yep.
That's correct, I think.
Yep, that's it.
So yeah, if anyone wants to follow Tony on IG, that's what his address is, or his how you can find him there. I know we've chatted back and forth there for almost 2 years now, so it's always good to talk to you.
You too. I appreciate you.
Yeah. No, thanks so much for coming on and telling your story again. Like I say, we did this last year at one point, but it was definitely good catching up with you, and then hopefully we can reach a few more people this time, and then maybe a few months from now we'll have another conversation on here.
I would love that.
Let's see how things are going. So
okay, sounds good, man. Thank you.
Okay, well, everyone that's here, I'm going to end the live stream now, and I hope everyone has a good night. And
good night, everybody.
See you on the next one. Bye-bye.